The arrogant, brutal general foolishly underestimated humanity's determination and ferocity. He would soon learn humans could end a war in mere hours. Sirens jolted Billy Crawford awake from cryosleep. Red lights flashed as his transport ship quaked under brutal torpedoes. Billy raced to the command center in his jumpsuit, boots thudding on metal decks. Report. Billy barked, rushing in. Captain Davis turned from the view screen showing brutal warships surrounding them, her face grim. The Brunel launched a surprise attack. They crippled our defenses. We're cut off. Casualties? Reinforcements? Billy asked. Severe losses. The Brunel jammed comms. No distress calls got out. If they break through here, they'll have an open path to our core worlds. Billy finished darkly. Billions will die. Our weapons are useless against their ships. We have to warn the starbase. Suddenly, the Brunel commander, General Oren, appeared on the view screen, smirking arrogantly. Your pathetic defenses are crushed. Your fleet is ashes. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Billy glared at Oren with steely eyes. Humanity would never surrender. Oren continued boasting, this is the might of Brunel technology. You never stood a chance. Billy cut the transmission. He had a desperate plan, a suicide mission, but their only hope. I'll take a team to hijack one of their ships, blast through the blockade, and warn the starbase. That's insane, Davis protested. You'll never survive. What choice do we have? We're dead anyway if we don't act, Billy said grimly. Davis hesitated, then nodded. She knew the stakes. As the team prepped weapons and gear, the ship's engineer pulled Billy aside, holding out a sleek rifle. Experimental plasma rifle. Packs a hell of a punch, but it's unstable. Billy hefted the weapon. I'll take any edge I can get. Minutes later, Billy and his hand-picked squad of volunteers stood at the airlock, jaws clenched with determination. The airlock hissed open, revealing a Brunel assault ship in the hangar. Billy took a breath and charged forward, bellowing a war cry, his squad following. They knew it was a desperate gambit, likely a one-way trip, but they would fight with everything they had. They were the last hope for humanity, the last chance to end this war. Billy gripped the controls of the hijacked Brunel ship, adrenaline surging through his veins. The experimental plasma rifle lay discarded, its once sleek barrel now charred and warped. It had served its purpose, blasting a path through the blockade, but now it was dead weight. Alarms blared as the ship's sensors detected a swarm of Brunel fighters closing in. Sir, we can't take much more of this. Sergeant Hawkins shouted over the din of enemy fire. Billy hit his fist against the console. They were so close to the starbase, but the Brunel were relentless. At this rate, they'd be space dust before they ever reached safety. Suddenly, a memory flashed through Billy's mind, the mission briefing. A lifetime ago. The analyst droning on about Brunel supply lines. His eyes widened. There was one nearby, the one fueling this whole invasion. I have an idea, Billy said, his voice hardened with dedication, but you're not going to like it. He outlined his plan. Hawkins blanched but nodded. Billy wrenched the controls, sending their ship into a stomach-churning turn. The Brunel fighters overshot, scrambling to match the maneuver. Now Billy roared, lead them toward the depot. The hijacked ship strained, alarms shrieking as Billy pushed the engines past their limits. The enemy fighters fell in behind them, their weapons hammering away. But then they realized where the humans were heading toward their own supply depot, the lifeblood of their offensive. The fighters peeled away in a desperate bid to head off the suicidal humans. Too late. Billy's ship screamed into the depot's perimeter, Brunel capital ships looming like avenging gods. Their weapons' turrets swiveled to lock on the hijacked ship, shields already failing. Get to the pods, Billy ordered, his voice cracking. All of you now. Hawkins opened his mouth to protest, but the look in Billy's eyes brooked no argument. With a final nod, he led the others off the bridge. Billy was alone now, just him, the enemy, and the cold, merciless void. He aimed the ship toward the heart of the depot's reactor, one last flying bomb, one final middle finger to the Brunel. A proximity alert blared. Billy glanced at the sensor display and barked a shocked laugh. Orin's flagship had dropped out of warp directly in his path. The arrogant bastard had guessed his play. Orin's face filled the view screen, triumphant. Surrender, human. You've lost. You never had a chance. Billy met the alien's gaze, a feral grin spreading across his face. You still don't get it, do you? You've got no idea what you're up against, no idea what humans will do when everything's on the line. He toggled the warp core overload. The world became light, pure searing light and heat and noise. The explosion ripped through Billy's ship and kept going, slamming into Orin's flagship, consuming it utterly. Then it hit the depot's reactor. For a second, the entire star system held its breath. Then a new sun bloomed into existence, so bright it seared afterimages into Billy's vision even through the automatically polarizing view screen. When it faded, the Brunel depot was gone, the rearguard fleet reduced to drifting wreckage. An entire linchpin of the enemy invasion wiped out in an instant. The last instant of Billy Crawford's life. The instant he saved his entire species. The instant he proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that you underestimate humanity at your own peril. The shockwave from Billy's sacrifice rippled through space, decimating the Brunel supply depot. General Orin's flagship lurched violently, systems flickering as emergency protocols kicked in. Orin stumbled, gripping his command chair to stay upright. Status report. He barked. Multiple hull breaches. Shields at 12%. Warp drive offline, his first officer shouted over blaring alarms. Orin's eyes widened as new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Human ships, dozens of them emerging from warp. Impossible, he hissed. The humans couldn't, sir. Incoming transmission from the human fleet. A gruff human voice crackled over the comms. This is Admiral Shao of the Earth Defense Force. Your invasion ends here, Brunel. Surrender or be destroyed. Orin snarled, thumping his hand on the arm of his chair. All ships, emergency retreat. Scatter to fallback coordinates. As his battered fleet began to disengage, Orin input the jump coordinates himself. The ship shuddered, preparing to flee. Nothing happened. Why aren't we jumping? Orin roared. Sir, warp core readings are fluctuating wildly. We can't. An explosion rocked the ship. Orin's blood ran cold as realization dawned. We have an intruder. Jake Hansen crouched in the shadows of the engine room, his hands steady as he wired the last explosive charge. Sweat dripped down his face, stinging his eyes. The ship rocked from human weapons fire, nearly throwing him off balance. For you, Billy, he whispered, activating the detonator. Alarms screamed through the corridors as Jake sprinted away from the warp core. He'd bought them time, but now he needed to stay alive long enough for the human fleet to finish the job. A squad of Brunel soldiers rounded the corner ahead, plasma rifles raised. Jake dove for cover as energy bolts sizzled past. He returned fire, his pistol seeming woefully inadequate against the alien's armor. A stray shot clipped his shoulder, searing flesh. Jake gritted his teeth against the pain and kept moving. He couldn't let them corner him. Jake's mind raced. He needed a distraction, something to buy him just a few more minutes. His eyes fell on a nearby maintenance hatch. Perfect. He kicked it open, tossing in a makeshift grenade cobbled together from scavenged parts. The explosion tore through the ship's guts, rupturing coolant lines and power conduits. Jake grinned savagely as the corridor filled with billowing steam. Let them try to find him in this mess.